What do you think about this possible lawsuit against the oil cartel? Bunch of bunk?
Well, there's one thing good about this thing that just happened in the House today, which is for the first time the enemy was identified. See, up till now, people have been waving their hands around. Is it the gas stations that are doing to us? Is it the oil companies that are doing this to us? Is it our own guilt over having SUVs? Is that what is doing it to us? Is this, we should just all do penance? They say, no, there's an enemy here, okay? The blows that we're feeling is not us walking into furniture. It's somebody hitting us with a baseball bat, and that's OPEC. And the House got that part exactly right. Now, the problem, however, is, you're not going to beat OPEC with a lawsuit. But at least they named the enemy. And now that people can see the enemy, we can start talking about what to do about him.
Well, now, does the enemy include the oil companies?
Only as tag-alongs, okay? And they're helping OPEC in certain ways, and they're certainly enjoying the profits. But let's talk about what's really going on here, okay? Because the House got this part right. It is OPEC that is running up the price of oil internationally. That's who's doing it.
And they're getting away with it.
They're getting away with it and a lot more else. Okay? I mean, look. The world economy has doubled in size since 1973. The population has almost doubled, but the degree of mechanization has more than doubled.
Far surpassed that.
Okay. Well, and therefore the amount of fuel needed has doubled, and the oil production of the non-OPEC world has doubled over that time, as you would expect under those conditions. But guess how much the oil production of OPEC has increased over that third of a century?
How much?
Not at all. Okay.
Stayed the same, uniform.
Well, not exactly uniform. It's had wild ups and downs in the short term as they open and close the tap in order to manipulate the market.
Right, as a control, basically.
Right. But the overall oil production today in 2008 of OPEC is the same as it was in 1973. After a third of a century in which the rest of the world economy has doubled, and despite the fact that they're sitting on top of 80% of the world's oil reserves, including all the easiest to drill stuff. Okay? So what OPEC is doing to the world, it's like, imagine a cruel dog owner who puts a collar nice and snug around the neck of a puppy and then leaves it set there as the dog grows. So the collar gets tighter and tighter and tighter around the neck of the dog until it chokes it to death. That is what they are doing to us right now, and it is driving the price of oil through the roof. The price of oil was $11 a barrel in 1999. It went to $21 a barrel in 2001. It was $50 a barrel in 2005, and here we are at just about $130 a barrel right now.
And what was it a year ago?
A year ago at this time was about 65, 70. It's basically doubled in the past year.
And there's no logical reason for it.
Well, no. What it is, it's contrived. It is, they're strangling the world economy by keeping down oil production in the face of increasing demand. See, it's like that dog. Okay, someone says, well, it's because the dog grew that it choked to death. No, the dog grew because that's what dogs do. They grow, okay? The thing that killed the dog is the fact that someone had a collar around its neck and wouldn't let it out while the dog was growing.
Forgot about it, right?
Okay, yeah, forgot about it. Yeah. Now, the oil companies, it has to be said that when the oil companies were running the production of oil in the Arab countries, they did increase production. From, say, 1945 to 1973.
Like British Petroleum, for example.
British Petroleum, Standard Oil, Exxon.
Shell.
Okay, Shell, yes. Okay, from the end of World War II to 1973, little less than a third of a century, they increased the oil production of the OPEC countries from just a few million barrels to 30 million barrels a day. In other words, they multiplied it 10 times over. Okay, so in that third of a century, OPEC's oil production goes up by a factor of 10. In the next third of a century, OPEC's oil production does not change at all because the Arabs took the stuff over and they implemented a new policy, which was to try to wreck the world economy. Okay, now, the oil embargo that they did in 73 was kind of clumsy. Okay, and they couldn't sustain it. They cut off the oil all at once, which also interfered with their own income, and they did not have much in the way of financial reserves, because up until that point, oil had been selling for $2.50 a barrel. But now they're a lot smarter. And they're, instead of doing it in all of a sudden an embargo so that people know that they're under attack, it's a kind of a slow choking attack is what they're doing. And furthermore, right now they've got huge financial reserves. They've got trillions of dollars of financial reserves. And let me give you a picture of how big this is. Okay, this year the United States is going to import 5 billion barrels of oil. At $130 a barrel, that is $650 billion that we are going to pay for foreign oil. That is almost 6 times the cost of the Iraq War. Okay, now that's just for the foreign oil. Then we have the American oil, which is another $400 billion. So we're going to be paying more than $1 trillion for oil this year in this country. That's up from $80 billion in 1999. So this is a $1 trillion burden on our economy. It's like $1 trillion tax. Now the IRS, in all its taxes on the United States, raises $2.5 trillion. So this is 40% of that. This is like a 40% increase in taxes across the board, except instead of the money going to Uncle Sam, it's going to Uncle Sod.
Yep.
Okay? And this is a big enough tax to push us right into a depression, which is what they want, because what they're doing is they're taking the money, and aside from the part that they're using to promote terrorism all over the place, they're putting together gigantic, what they call sovereign wealth funds. The Saudis are putting together a $900 billion sovereign wealth funds, and other OPEC powers are putting together their sovereign wealth funds. And what they're going to do with this money is come in and take over the companies that they force into bankruptcy at 10 cents on the dollar.
Exactly. And real estate.
And real estate. Yes, you see, they're forcing us into a depression right now, and that will force down the value of all these companies and real estate and all the rest. And you can see it. I mean, look, you take that $1 trillion that we're going to pay for oil this year, divide $1 trillion by 300 million Americans, comes out to $3,300 a person, man, woman, and child in this country, or $13,000 for a family of 4. Now, the average American worker makes $45,000 a year before taxes, $35,000 after taxes. So this is a third of disposable income is now going for oil. Okay, that's up from 3% in 1999. So is it any wonder that they're not buying houses? So this is what is collapsing the housing market, which is therefore collapsing the mortgage market, which is therefore collapsing the banks. And that's why Bear Stearns went under a month ago. And then they came in, and through their sovereign wealth funds, they took the place over at 10 cents on the dollar. That's their plan. And that's exactly what they're doing. So they're going to force us into a depression. Europe, the same way. Japan, the same way. And as far as the poor countries of the world, Africa, the rest, they'll just be pushed into starvation because...
Well, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
I mean, look at Egypt. They don't even care about their brother there.
Right, yes. There's starvation in Egypt because, you see, the thing that's driving up food prices internationally is the price of fuel. Okay, it's not the American corn ethanol program. No way. That's not what's driving up the price of fish and rice and wheat and everything else. It's being driven up by the price of fuel. It's partially being driven up by increased demand from China and India, and also speculation. These same OPEC powers with all these petrodollars come into the commodities markets, and they bid up the price of rice and wheat and corn and everything and make it more expensive for everybody else. That's another game they're playing.
But you know what? Here, President Bush goes to Saudi Arabia last week, meets with King Abdullah. Nothing happens, Robert. Where's the friendship? Where's this, we'll help good old America? Where's Kuwait? We bailed out the emir and all his cronies. Where's the help?
Well, actually, we helped them raise the price of oil on us. See, so long as Saddam Hussein was running around over there waving his sword in the air and yelling and screaming that he might attack anybody, the Saudis had to hide behind American troops. And there were American forces on Saudi soil to protect them from Saddam Hussein. Now, I got to tell you that if Saddam Hussein was still there right now yelling and screaming and waving his sword around and the Saudis were hiding behind our troops, if President Bush went over there and told them to drop the price of oil, they would have done it.
They would have done it.
Okay?
They don't need